The line at the entrance of the human-controlled space station was long and quiet. Aliens and humans stood shoulder to shoulder, waiting for their turn to pass through the high-security scanner. No one spoke. Only the soft hum of machines filled the air. Then came her turn. She was an alien girl with soft purple skin and glowing blue eyes. Her clothes were thin and modest, but they still stood out under the bright white lights. She stepped forward, nervous, her hands shaking slightly. The scanner lit up in red the moment she passed under it. "Stop," the voice of a human guard echoed. She froze, her heart pounding. The officer walked closer, tall and strong. Wearing a white and black uniform, he looked at the screen, then at her. "All non-biological materials must be removed," he said calmly. The girl's eyes widened. I don't understand," she whispered, her voice soft and trembling. The other aliens looked away, pretending not to hear. "You're wearing synthetic fibers," he said, pointing at the glowing mark on the scanner screen. "Our scanners need a clean body to approve entry." She looked down at herself, unsure, afraid, and completely embarrassed. "Do I have to remove them?" she asked, her voice nearly breaking. "Yes," he replied, then paused when he saw the panic in her eyes. His tone softened. "We have a private booth, if you prefer." She nodded slowly, almost ashamed, and followed him toward a side corridor. Whispers followed her, but she kept walking with her head down. Inside the small booth, the air was cold. She turned away from him and placed her hands on the wall. The scanner behind her hummed softly. "Waiting. I'll be outside the curtain," the human said, turning away respectfully. She started to remove her clothes, her fingers shaking. Her cheeks burned, and she bit her lip to stop it from trembling. Just as she slipped the fabric off her shoulder, the scanner beeped again. Louder this time. "Wait," the human called from outside, his voice sharp. She quickly covered herself and peeked out. "What's wrong now?" she asked, scared and confused. The human guard stared at the new reading on the screen. "There's something else," he said slowly. "Inside your body." Her knees felt weak. "That can't be true," she said. "I have no implants." "No tech. I believe you," the guard said. "But the scanner doesn't lie." He looked at her with concern, not suspicion. "We need to do a deep scan," he continued, "in the medical bay." Her eyes filled with fear. "What if someone put something in me without me knowing?" she asked quietly. He didn't answer, because he didn't know either. The medical bay was quiet, cold and bright. She sat on the examination table, now wrapped in a blanket. The human stood beside the doctor, watching the monitor as the scan passed over her chest. A bright spot appeared near her ribs. "There it is," the doctor said. "Something small metallic. But I've never had surgery," the girl whispered, her voice cracked. And she looked away. "Could it be tracker?" she asked, "or a weapon?" "We don't know yet," the human said, gently. "You may have been targeted." She covered her face with her hands. Tears escaped her eyes before she could stop them. "I didn't choose this," she said. "Just came here to start over." The human looked at her with soft eyes. "I'll help you," he said. "You're not alone." She slowly lowered her hands and met his eyes. For the first time, she felt like someone truly saw her. Not just her body, not just the scanner's alarm, but her. But the moment didn't last. The computer screen blinked again, showing a message. A cold silence filled the room. "What does it mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The human stared at the screen, his jaw tight. "It means we have less than one day," he said. "Before something happens." She clutched the blanket around her tighter. Fear settled deep in her bones. The scanner rule was supposed to be simple, but now it had uncovered something terrifying. Something inside her was counting down, and no one knew what would happen when time ran out. Asterisk, the monitor glowed in the dark room as the countdown continued. 23 hours and 43 minutes. The alien girl sat in the corner, arms wrapped around her knees, watching the blinking numbers like they might stop if she stared long. Enough, but they didn't stop. The human stood nearby, pacing back and forth. He had seen many strange things in his time at the station, but never something like this. A foreign object inside someone's body, starting a countdown without a signal or warning. He looked at her again, curled up like she wanted to disappear. She didn't speak, she only rocked slowly, the blanket still wrapped around her bare shoulders. He could feel her fear, heavy in the air like smoke. He wanted to say something, anything, but no words felt right. At last she broke the silence. "I don't remember anything," she said, her voice soft and broken. He sat on the edge of the bed, not too close. "Anything about what?" he asked. "About getting this thing inside me," she whispered. "There was a time, maybe 2 months ago, when I blacked out. I was taken," she added. "But I woke up in the street with no marks. No blood, nothing." He nodded slowly, trying to process her words. "Do you remember who took you?" "No faces," she said. "Just darkness and voices, maybe machines." He glanced at the scan again, where the object inside her pulsed slowly with a faint blue light. It wasn't just metal. It was alive in some way. She turned to him, her eyes wide. "Do you think I'm dangerous?" He didn't answer right away, but when he did, his voice was calm. "I think someone made you a target," he said. "I think they hid something inside you without your permission. And I think they're planning to use you for something." Her hands trembled as she held the blanket tighter. "What if it's a bomb?" she asked. "What if I explode and take others with me?" "We'll stop it," he said. "I promise." "You don't even know what it is," she replied, almost angry, almost crying. "I know you didn't choose this," he said, "and that's enough for me." Just then, a strange buzz filled the room. The lights flickered once, then settled. The computer beeped, and new data appeared on the screen. The object inside her had connected to the local network. A voice came from the speakers, deep and sharp. "Signal found," it said. "Initiating phase 1. She jumped to her feet, eyes wide in horror. The human moved quickly, turning off the system, but it was too late. "What was that?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I think it's trying to talk to something outside the station," he said. "Like a transmitter?" "Or a key," he replied. "To something worse." She looked down at her chest, as if she could see through her skin to the implant. "I want it out," she said, her voice hard. "Now." "We can't remove it," he said slowly. "Not yet." "Why?" she snapped. "Because I'm not human?" "No," he said quickly. "Because if we remove it now, it could trigger something. It might be a trap." She sank back down, her strength leaving her. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered again. He moved closer this time, sitting beside her. "I believe you," he said, "and I'll help you through this." She looked up at him, her eyes full of emotion. "I was so afraid when I had to undress in front of the scanner," she said suddenly. "I thought you would laugh. I thought you'd treat me like others did, just another alien girl." He smiled slightly, shaking his head. "You look terrified," he said. "Not weak. And I was trained to protect those in fear, not hurt them." Something about his voice calmed her. She leaned her head against his shoulder for just a moment. It wasn't romantic, it was safety. Then the silence was broken by another alarm. A red warning flashed across the screen. He stood up fast, reading the data. "They're coming," he said. "Who?" she asked. "Whoever put that thing inside you," he said. "They found you again." The countdown on the implant kept ticking. 22 hours now, she rose from the bed, her legs weak but steady. "What do we do now?" she asked. He looked at her with fire in his eyes. "Now," he said, "we run." The doors to the medical wing burst open as red lights flashed along the hallway ceiling. The girl ran beside the human, her bare feet slapping softly against the cold floor. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't care. All she knew was that something terrible was coming, and he was the only one trying to save her. Behind them, sirens howled louder with each step. Security bots powered up, scanning the air, following the trace from the implant inside her. She kept looking down at the number on the small handheld scanner the human had clipped to his belt, 21 hours 52 minutes. That number ticked like a curse, like a death sentence she never agreed to. She wanted to scream, but her throat had gone dry. He reached a lift and slammed the button. Panting, "We're going to the old maintenance tunnels," he said. "No trackers, no cameras. Do you really think we can escape?" She asked. "I don't know," he admitted, "but we'll try." As the lift dropped, the lights above them flickered again. Then a soft voice echoed from the implant device. Not through the speaker, but inside her own head. It wasn't her voice, not fully, and it wasn't his either. "Prepare the vessel," it said, calm and cold. She gasped and grabbed her chest, falling to one knee. The human caught her quickly, holding her steady. "What is it?" he asked. "Is it hurting?" "You?" "It spoke," she said. "I heard it." "In here," she pointed to her head. He looked stunned. "It's not just a tracker," he muttered. "It's intelligent." The lift stopped and opened to darkness. Old wires hung from the ceiling like vines. Dust covered the floor like snow. No one had been down here in years, maybe longer. He pulled her close and guided her through the narrow passage. "We'll hide for now, then find a way off the station." She stopped walking. "No," she said, her voice shaking. "I don't want to run forever." He turned to face her, surprised. "I want to know what's inside me," she said. "I want to know who did this and why." The human stared at her, then slowly nodded. "Then we need help," he said. "Someone who understands alien tech better than anyone else." She followed him deeper into the dark, her mind full of questions. What was the voice really? Was she even herself anymore? And what would happen when the countdown reached 0? They arrived at a sealed door with faded markings. He typed in a forgotten code and the door creaked open. Inside was a dim lab full of tools, broken screens, and glowing data cubes. Sitting in the corner was a wrinkled alien with 6 eyes and shaky hands. The old engineer looked up and blinked. "Didn't think I'd see a human and a girl like her together," he said. The human stepped forward quickly. "We need a scan now," he said. "Something is inside her, something counting down." The old alien laughed weakly. "Another cursed implant, eh?" He pulled out an old device and waved it over her chest. The scanner beeped once, then buzzed wildly. The old alien muttered. This isn't from any regular market." He tapped a few keys, then looked up with wide eyes. "This is ancient tech buried and forgotten for ages, and now it lives inside her." The girl clenched her fists. "Why me?" she asked, almost begging. The engineer didn't answer directly. He showed her the screen, and what appeared made her breath stop. A map of the galaxy, with red dots blinking across star systems. All were marked with the same signal from her. "Implant, you're not the only one," the engineer whispered. "You're one of many." Her voice trembled. "So, we're what? Weapons?" The old alien shook his head. "No, you're seeds," he said. "Planted to grow and activate when the time is right." The human stepped forward. "What happens when the timer hits 0? The engineer looked him dead in the eye. "They awaken." Her knees gave out, and she sank into the chair. She wasn't sick or infected. She was a host, not for a disease, but for a plan written by someone she never met. Her whole life, her choices, her fear. None of it mattered to those who planted it inside her. But the human took her hand, steady and warm. "We're not going to let them win," he said. She looked into his eyes. Searching for doubt, she found none. Then the implant buzzed again. But this time it wasn't just a countdown. It released a pulse, and all the lights in the lab flickered. Her skin glowed faintly, and her hair rose like static. Something deep inside her had just turned on. Asterisk. The first thing she noticed was silence. Not the kind that felt peaceful, but the kind that screamed. The lights in the old lab had gone dark, every machine dead. Even the humming from the walls had stopped. The human looked at her, eyes wide, hands still wrapped tightly around hers. She was glowing, softly but clearly, like her blood had turned to light. The old alien engineer backed away, whispering something in a language neither of them understood. Then her implant spoke again, but this time through her lips. Access. Point confirmed, her mouth said, though it wasn't her voice. Vessel integrity acceptable. She gasped and covered her mouth, shaking her head. I didn't mean to say that, she whispered, terrified. The human moved in front of her, shielding her like a barrier. Who are you? He demanded, speaking into the air. No reply came, but the scanner buzzed and displayed new words. Link initiated. Receiving commands. The girl grabbed the table, her knees weak. What does that mean? She asked, her voice tight with panic. The old engineer stared at the screen, then looked at her with something close to fear. It means someone just took control of the implant again, he said. From where? The human snapped. The old one raised a shaky hand and pointed upward. From space. The girl's heart sank. Far above them, in orbit, a strange ship had entered stealth range. Black as shadow, shaped like a needle, it floated silently, inside. Its screens displayed her face, her pulse, the countdown, and a man sat in the dark. Watching her with cold eyes, she shivered without knowing why. The human noticed and put a hand on her shoulder. Grounding her, she leaned into it without thinking. It was the only thing that felt real. I remember something, she said suddenly. The two men turned to her. When I was taken before, she whispered, I heard someone say I was a fit match. They said my genes matched their requirements. The old engineer paled. You're not just carrying a device, he said. You're the device. The room felt colder after that. The human stepped back and looked at her like he'd just seen a new person. But not with fear, with understanding, with pain. That's why they didn't just track you, he said. They built you for something. She dropped her head, ashamed. I never wanted this. She whispered. He knelt beside her. I know, he said. None of this is your fault. The old engineer tapped a few buttons and pulled up a deeper scan. This implant is fused to your nervous system, he said. It's not just in your body, it's part of you now. She looked at the screen, seeing the web of glowing lines stretching from the device to her brain and heart. But it can be turned off, the old one added. If someone is brave enough. The human stood, jaw tight. What do we need? He asked. The engineer pointed to a case buried beneath a dusty cabinet. Inside is a neural override chip, he said. But once it's placed, it can't be removed without killing her. The girl stood slowly, her glow dimmed, but her eyes now burned with something different anger. If I keep running, they'll use me, she said. If I let them control me, others will suffer. She looked at the human. I want to be free, even if it hurts. He stared at her, his heart pounding. He had just met her, but something about her strength made him want to protect her even more. Then we do it together, he said, as they opened the case and prepared the chip. A loud sound cracked through the air. The walls shook and dust rained from above. The scanner screened the ship had begun its descent. They were no longer hunting her. They were coming to take her by force. The human grabbed her hand again, strong. And sure, no matter what happens, he said, you're not alone. Her fingers tightened around his for the first time in a long time. She felt brave, not because she was powerful, but because someone stood beside her. Then came the final shock. A deep voice echoed from the implant, through her lips once more. Target locked, it said. Prepare the vessel for retrieval. Her eyes turned bright white, and she collapsed in his arms. He held her close, shouting her name, but she didn't respond. The implant had entered the next phase, and they were almost out of time. The shuttle bay was burning. Flames rolled along the walls like angry waves. Alarms screamed from every direction, drowning out thought. But he only saw her limp in his arms, her body glowing with soft white light. He didn't have time to think about what had just happened. Her pulse was still there, fast but strong. She was breathing, barely, but something inside her had changed. The ship above them had already begun its descent, dark and silent, like a spear falling from the sky. It wasn't coming to talk. It was coming to collect, The human moved fast, weaving through smoke and sparks. Security teams shouted. Bots rolled in from all corners. But he didn't stop to explain. He had only one mission now: get her out. A familiar voice crackled through the intercom. Unauthorized escape attempt detected. Shut all exits. He gritted his teeth, recognizing the cold voice of the station. Commander, they were going to hand her over, just like that. He ducked behind a fallen panel, gently laying her down. Her eyes fluttered open for a second, glowing with a strange mix of blue and white. Where are we? She whispered weakly. Safe for now, he said, wiping sweat from her forehead. You passed out, he added. The implant took control. She blinked slowly, tears forming. I felt like I wasn't myself, like someone else was walking inside me. He squeezed her hand gently. You're still you, he said, but we need to get far away from here. Her glow dimmed slightly, but her fear didn't. Will it happen again? She asked before he could answer. The ground shook. A deep, thunderous sound cracked through the station. Then a red light flashed on the wall primary docking breach. The ship had landed. The human looked toward the sealed hangar doors. Through the small window, he saw shadows moving, tall figures, metal limbs, glowing eyes, retrieval units, and they were already inside. He turned to her, fire reflecting in his eyes. We can't run through the main gate, he said. Then, how do we escape? She asked, voice trembling. We don't escape, he said. We steal a ship. Her eyes widened. But that's illegal? He cut in. So is whatever they did to you. She stared at him, then slowly nodded. Together, they crawled through a maintenance hatch that led to the lower launch platforms. It was old, unused, full of dust and forgotten tools. He kept one arm around her waist, supporting her as she walked. Even weak, she didn't complain. When they reached the end of the tunnel, he pushed open a hatch and peeked out. A sleek patrol shuttle sat nearby, still powered on. A lone pilot stood beside it, arguing with a bot. Stay here, he whispered. Then slipped out like a shadow. He approached the pilot quietly. One quick punch knocked the man out cold. The bot beeped in surprise. But before it could alert anyone, he pulled the memory chip from its head. Silence again. He waved to her, and she limped forward quickly. The moment she entered the shuttle, the lights dimmed again. Her presence made the system flicker, the implant still pulsing with quiet energy. Inside, he set her down in the co-pilot seat. Can you fly? She asked. I can crash less than most, he said with a tired smile. She managed a soft laugh. Even through the pain, the engines hummed as he powered up the system. Then, a loud knock on the outer hull made them both freeze, one of the dark. Retrieval unit stood at the front, staring through the window, its glowing eyes fixed right on her. She gasped and held her head. It's trying to speak again, she said, voice strained. He reached across and activated the shields. The retrieval unit raised its hand, and the glass began to crack. The human didn't wait. He slammed the thruster switch. The shuttle jerked violently and rose into the air. The retrieval unit flew backward, crashing into a wall as they soared through the hangar. Defense cannons locked on, but the implant pulsed again, and the guns flickered. One by one, they shut down. She opened her eyes in shock. I think I did that, she said. You're learning fast, he replied, gripping the controls. Outside, space opened like a black sea. They cleared the station just as the enemy ship began to turn. Hold on, he shouted, jerking the ship into a sharp dive. Energy blasts lit up the sky behind them. But the stars ahead were still wide open, and for the first time since she arrived, she felt something strange hope. She turned to him slowly, her voice soft but steady. You could have left me. Yeah, he said, glancing at her. But I didn't want to. Her hand brushed against his, just for a second, not because she had to, but because she chose to. And far behind them, the countdown kept ticking. But now they were no longer just running from it. They were running toward the truth. Asterisk. The stars outside the shuttle twisted suddenly. Everything stretched and blurred as they entered jump. Space. She pressed her hand against the glass, watching the universe fold around them like ribbons of light. But no matter how far they ran, the countdown still ticked in her chest. He sat quietly beside her, eyes locked on the controls. He had never flown this fast before, and he had never flown with a living mystery sitting inches away from him. The silence between them was heavy, but not cold. She turned slowly, her voice calm but scared. If we go any faster, the implant might react again. He didn't look at her, just nodded. I know, he said. But if we go any slower, they'll catch us. I don't even know who they are, she whispered. He finally turned. Meeting her eyes, whoever put that thing inside you didn't want you to have choices, he said. And now that you do, they want you back. She looked away. For a moment, she forgot the scanner, the clothes, the cold table. All she remembered now was fear, and his hand holding hers in the dark. I'm tired of being hunted, she said. Just then, the implant beeped, not a warning this time, but a signal. He leaned over and checked the panel. The screen flashed a symbol they had never seen before. A spiral with 2 circles, rotating slowly. What is it? She asked. The ship began to shake, and the jump tunnel outside turned red. I think it's a destination, he said, confused. But I didn't put in any coordinates. Her fingers twitched, the glow under her skin growing again. I think it's choosing for us, she said, voice distant, before either of them could stop it. The ship dropped out of jump space. They appeared above a strange world. Dark clouds circled it like angry storms. No sun, no stars. Only a red glow rising from below the clouds. He frowned, gripping the controls tighter. This isn't anywhere on the maps, he said. Maybe it's hidden, she replied. The implant beeped again, this time with urgency. Then, without warning, her body jerked forward like a puppet pulled by a string. She collapsed onto the console, eyes wide and glowing white. He jumped to her side, shouting her name, but she didn't respond. Her mouth opened, and a voice came out, one not her own. Vessel initiated, it said. Awakening sequence, phase 2. The ship tilted downward as if something was pulling it toward the planet. He grabbed the controls, trying to override the system, but the controls were dead. No response, no power. She was the ship now, or the ship was part of her. Her hands lifted slowly, floating in the air. A glowing pattern spread across her skin, ancient symbols moving like they were alive. He had seen ancient alien tech before, but never anything like this. This wasn't just advanced, it was sacred. Her voice returned, shaking. I can hear ... Voices, she said. Thousands of them. He moved closer, trying to calm her. You're still you, he whispered. Don't let them take that from you. She turned to him, eyes full of light and tears. I don't want to be a key, or a weapon, or a signal. I just want to be someone. He reached out and touched her face. You already are, he said. A loud sound cracked across the ship. The sky outside split open, revealing a structure massive, black and floating above the planet. It looked like a temple built in space. Symbols matching hers glowed along its surface. I think I was meant to come here, she said, her voice barely a whisper. He didn't like it, but he trusted her. The shuttle docked by itself, drawn in by invisible force. As the doors opened, warm air rushed inside. It didn't feel like a trap. It felt like a home forgotten by time. They stepped out together, her bare feet touching the smooth black floor. The symbols under her skin responded to the ones on the ground. A soft hum filled the air, like music from another world. He stayed beside her, hand never leaving hers. She led him forward, past glowing walls and silent statues. Then they reached a chamber, round and bright. In the center stood a single stone table. Upon it a device shaped just like the implant in her chest. The implant pulsed, and the countdown paused at 4 hours. She turned to him, eyes full of pain and purpose. If I place it here, I think I'll be free. But, he asked, I don't know what else will happen. she said. He stepped closer. Whatever happens, he said, I'm staying with you. She smiled for the first time in hours. Then she stepped toward the table, her fingers hovered over the glowing surface. The moment she touched it, everything around them changed. And somewhere deep inside her, something ancient opened its eyes. Time stopped, or maybe it only felt that way. The moment her fingers touched the stone table, the chamber filled with light so bright, it had no color. She could feel her body floating, weightless, like her bones had disappeared. The human called her name, but she couldn't answer. His voice echoed as if underwater, distant and fading. All around her were voices, so many speaking in a language she didn't know but somehow understood. They didn't sound angry or kind or even alive. They sounded like memory. They said she had been chosen, not for power, not for destruction, but for awakening. She saw flashes, a time before her birth, before her people. An ancient race, long gone, had made something beautiful living knowledge. They placed it into seeds and sent them across the stars. Some never bloomed, some were stolen and twisted, and one had survived inside her, not as a weapon, but as a bridge. She opened her eyes again. Gasping for breath, he was holding her, his arms tight around her body. You were gone, he said, his voice shaking. I thought I lost you. I saw everything, she whispered. I saw who I am. She placed her hand on her chest, the implant no longer glowing. It's not a bomb, she said. It's a map. He blinked, confused. A map to what? To all the lost knowledge, she said, smiling through tears. They wanted to use it for war, but it was made for peace. The stone table rose, transforming into a smooth console. Symbols danced across it. Waiting, she stepped forward. Now stronger, her steps firm. The countdown appeared again, this time frozen at 2 minutes. I can release it, she said. Let the knowledge spread again, repair what was broken. He touched her shoulder. But what happens to you? She hesitated. The system was made for someone like me, she said. A biological key. If I activate it fully, I don't know if I'll survive. He stepped in front of her, his voice sharp. Then don't, he said. There has to be another way. She smiled sadly. I don't want to be afraid anymore, she said. Not of scanners or implants, or what's inside me. I want to choose. He stared at her, torn between fear and pride. I came here to keep you safe, he said. You did. She whispered. You reminded me I'm still a person, and that means everything. She turned to the console and placed her palm flat on it. A deep hum filled the room as the chamber lit up. Data flowed out like streams of light, shooting into the stars. Every forgotten library, every corrupted code, every broken signal restored. Across distant galaxies, machines came to life. Peaceful A's blinked awake. Old ships found new purpose. Knowledge long buried under war was given back. But in the center of it all, she stood still, glowing brighter than ever. He reached for her again, but his hand passed through her arm like mist. She looked at him, her eyes soft and warm. I think I'm becoming part of it, she said. He clenched his jaw, fighting tears. No, he said. You're not just data. You're her. You're the girl who blushed at a scanner. She laughed, the sound like music. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me. Then she stepped back, and her body dissolved into light. The room dimmed. The symbols faded. The console went dark. He dropped to his knees, silent. He didn't cry, not yet. Outside, the sky cleared, the storm clouds parting. The alien ship in orbit powered down, no longer needed. The chase was over. The war was avoided. And somewhere across the galaxy, her light remained. In every system that flickered on, in every piece of knowledge returned. He returned to the station, silent but respected. No one dared ask what really happened. But the scanners never glowed red for him again. They just blinked softly, as if remembering her. Weeks later, he sat alone under the stars, holding the small device she left behind. It was cold, dark, but somehow comforting. Then one night, it blinked just once, and he smiled, because even if she was now part of the stars, she was still watching, still choosing, and still her.